Major markets have seen their best buying in months, and the big question right now is, have they started their next major boom? We'll dive into what these massive markets are and give you our carefully selected ASX stocks so that you can make the most of this opportunity. I'm Philip Tortevsky, joined by Senior Analyst Janine Cox from Wealth Within and Blueberry Markets Zoran Kresovic. Good evening.
Good evening. How are we?
Very good. How are you? Good evening. Nice to have you both on board. We've got a very big show tonight. We're covering three sectors I was just about to get into, and I might have jumped the gun early, but let's get right into this. What are those three markets in focus, Janine? I want to ask you because it's shaping up really interestingly right now.
Well, Phil, everyone's talking about AI, but very few people are actually talking about what's happening underneath the surface. Bitcoin is seeing massive institutional inflows. Silver is quietly facing one of the biggest supply deficits in years, and AI infrastructure spending is exploding globally. So let's get into these charts and take a look before we give you our best hand-picked stocks and ETFs from these markets.
All right, excellent. Now, I think first up, we're going to dive into the very interesting chart of Bitcoin, which, I mean, you know, it's starting to creep up right now. I mean, Zoran, do you want to dive into that chart and tell us what you think, and then we'll get both your opinions on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually seeing quite a lot of inflow coming through as well. The broker, Blueberry, that I'm working with, a lot of clients are actually taking positions on cryptos in general. I think what's really interesting here is cryptos, or in particular Bitcoin, actually have a cyclical movement where you will find that they generally actually tend to retrace around 70 to 80% before they find the bottom. And we can actually see that here on the last major move when Bitcoin reached an all-time high in October 2025. So the move has been actually somewhat a little bit lesser, around 60%, or I believe 58%. But if you compare that to the moves that happened back in 2021-22 and back in 2017, we can actually see a structural change where Bitcoin was actually creating major lower lows and lower highs before he actually bottomed out. And on those two occasions when he did, back in 2017 and 2021-22, he actually moved in sync around 75%. So I'm not, you know, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And in this instance, we actually can see that it's kind of found the bottom around 60,000. Now, you know, many are asking a question whether this is only a counter move towards the prevailing trend that's likely to continue lower. But what's interesting and what's promising, guys, at the moment is that we're seeing enormous amount of spot ETF cryptos that are coming into the market, and net inflows are very positive, pretty much for the first time since around October 2025. And we are seeing a whole heap of institutional and retail money coming into the market. So that's obviously providing a backdrop on the bullish mood that we're seeing right now. And as long as it can continue heading higher and break that maybe 85,000, then perhaps maybe we can see Bitcoin lean towards that 100,000, which is a massive, massive psychological number.
So I guess to break that all down, maybe there's a chance it could fall further to fill that 70-80% correction, but maybe now is the time. And I want to ask your opinion on this, Jenny, because one thing that stands out to me on that weekly chart is that volume that's come in over the last couple of weeks is unlike anything we've seen for Bitcoin. And oftentimes when you see this type of participation, it could mean something serious. So is it likely to continue that fall like Zoran's you know, potentially alluding to, or is the low in?
That's the big question. And look, just if I'm going to play 50-50 and go on the fence, which is where I am at the moment, because when I look at the chart, there are these patterns forming on the chart that say, like Zoran says, that it could go lower, right? So, I mean, there's a potential for it to go between $40 and $50. There's a real potential for that. The fact that that volume's come in is really bizarre because somebody has obviously invested heavily. Obviously, there's been the selling on the other side of that because there's two sides of the coin there. So who's wanting to sell off so much of the stuff? You know, that's the question. But I think it has to get through this $90 in a strong way before I'm convinced that this isn't just a little bit of a move up. For short-term buyers, it's probably a real nice little run for them. But if they were in it already, because there was a possibility to get into it. But if not in it, I'd be watching that $90 level.
Yeah,
90,000, yeah, that's an important level.
90,000, yeah.
So I just want to reiterate that I'm probably a little bit more bullish than bearish on it. And there is particular technical analysis that I do on it. And, you know, if you just apply a simple downtrend line on it, you can see it getting broken. But at the same time, I would be very wary because we had a similar move that happened in 2022. And when everyone thought it's a good long and safe long, it's actually reversed and continued the downtrend lower.
Yeah, good point. Now, on that trend line Zoran was mentioning, you can find some introductions to that stuff and a lot of other techniques to build a super portfolio in 2026. This is the book, How to Beat the Managed Funds by 20%. It is free. You just have to pay the shipping. The link is in the description below this video. Go and get it. It's a great introduction. But as always, if you do want the professional standard of education, all of what this team has here and a lot of our clients, go and visit the website. Check out the Diploma of Share Trading and Investment. It is government accredited. You won't find another one like it. But let's get to the next topic before we dive into some amazing stocks in this sector, especially later on. So stay tuned for that. But we've got silver. Now, silver, I'll get your thoughts on silver, Zoran, and then your thoughts, Janine, is a commodity right now that is so tied with this AI story. I mean, silver's becoming the AI commodity. What are you seeing on that chart? Is this the next leg for silver to break higher or potentially not?
So a couple of really interesting points there, Phil. First one is that we've actually seen something tremendous and, you know, referring to multi-year levels and, you know, cycles of the markets, we can actually see the silver is kind of somewhat broken this multi-year cycle of downtrend and sideways move back in 2025. So obviously we got to respect that trend and we got to respect the move and only to see it go absolutely berserk and parabolically up. Now, you know, this obviously rally at the best of times is probably not sustainable, and that's why we're actually seeing this sideways move now on silver that's actually starting to consolidate. To back this, obviously, we've got the volumes in price, which is actually supporting the move, which is very, very promising. And that's why I think there's actually a lot of profit taking that's happening at these levels. So that's number one. Number two, as you mentioned previously, AI is a big story at the moment, and whilst many believe, you know, it's another replica of dot-com boom, and we can actually discuss that a little bit later in the show as well. You know, if this does continue, then we actually see a lot of value in silver, obviously continuing to, you know, uptrend higher, right? So there's a bit of that as well. And then there is a last one as well, which is obviously in nominal terms. So if you compare gold and silver over the last couple of years, we can actually see that gold has been absolutely star performer, right? Amongst or alongside AI stocks on NASDAQ, gold has been one of the best performing assets over the last couple of years. Now we know that gold has gone up to tremendous levels of around 5,000 or so. So, you know, a lot of those smart money or institutional money or hedge fund money obviously is looking for the next best thing. And in nominal terms, silver was obviously much cheaper. So in percentage terms, it's always going to provide a lot more value. And that's why we're actually seeing reshuffle or repositioning of a lot of that flow going from gold into silver as well. So I think if we combine all this together, I'm actually very bullish on silver. I still think silver has got a lot more to go. Other aspects of the geopolitical risk and everything that's going on in Middle East as well. Silver is used in so many components of infrastructure, building, and you know, other resources as well. So I think we are starting a bullish cycle on silver.
I'm going to get your thoughts in a second on the .com comparison, because I think that's a big question to ask. But I want to get your thoughts, Janine, on silver right now. What are your thoughts in terms of the long-term trajectory, where it's heading next? And maybe speak a little bit to that, because there is this talk out there, AI, the CapEx spending is so much. Can these companies continue to deliver? So far they have. How important is it to think, you know, in the future, or just as a trader focus on, hey, there's an opportunity right now. I don't really care what's going to happen 3, 4, 5 years down the track. I just know it's moving. How do I make the most out of it? Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, so as a trader, that's one thing. But if you're talking about longer term, which you started out with, that's a different story altogether, because if we're factoring in that the market is going to correct, we know that gold corrects when the market corrects as well. You know, lots of markets correct at around about the same time, and they talk about diversification, which we know is just rubbish. So when you look at what silver's done, it's followed gold, as Zoran was saying before, but it's actually gone up much faster. So it has the potential, given it's considered a trading commodity, much more so than gold, which is more the investor's commodity, to actually get something out of it. And looking at that chart right now, if you take a look, you can see there that it's just made this higher low on the chart, which is the first good sign to look for, plus it's closing up strongly. Now that is really important. If it holds above that low there, I think that it could be quite good for short-term traders to get an opportunity out of it. And at the moment, it's still looking bullish. So, you know, I think that there are really good opportunities there. And somebody's paid $120 for it. Doesn't mean it will go up there again, but I think it's going to crack and try to get back up through $100 in the short term.
Well, there you have it, both bullish on silver, which is very good. And we've got some amazing stocks in that silver space coming up shortly. But before we move on to the next chart, I want to ask you, you mentioned it earlier, is AI.com 2.0?
Well, I wish I knew, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately on that stuff, and there is a feel in the market that we are going through a bit of a parabolic move, and there is a lot of emphasis on speculation at the moment. And now I don't know whether, obviously, the moves that we're seeing on global equities or indexes amongst NASDAQ, Dow Jones, probably not so much ASX 200, are actually leaning towards that, because if you have a look at the S&P 500, if you have a look at NASDAQ...
All-time highs.
That's right, but like they've gone parabolically. Like another sector that, you know, might be interested for a lot of students or traders is Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, SOX. So many clients or there's actually a lot of talk about that at the moment, because that's dealing with the market index that's predominantly focused on the AI stocks and chips and components that are helping that succeed. And that's actually gone 70% since 31st of March. So we might be in a bit of a bubble. I'm not saying we are, but we might be. And if we are, then obviously you got to stick to your rules and make sure that you don't get you don't get caught out when the market, you know, reverses.
It's funny you said that, because I was about to put the semiconductor chart on to have a look at it, and you're right, it is absolutely, you know, vertical. Couldn't get more vertical in the way it's unfolding. But we do have another chart, which is just to show where this tech story really is since those March lows. Did you want to bring that one up?
Yeah, the interesting thing is that everyone was made to feel like there was going to be doom and gloom for reporting season in the US, which has turned out to be completely the opposite, because most companies have actually reported positively, and it's a significant positive we're talking about in overall. Yeah. So, you know, it was up, I think, in the 80s. And when you see those sort of numbers, then you know that we're still going to be in a bull run for at least another year. So if you think back to what happened in the GFC, it was the same thing prior to the GFC. The numbers were coming out more positive, but eventually things started to turn. And that's when people got blindsided and they thought they were still on a run, and they weren't on a run. They thought they were cheap when they started to pull back. But the next significant pullback, I think we all have to pay very close attention to.
And so that chart there that really tells you, I guess, where the growth coming out of this tech space is. It's really AI.
But it's 7 stocks on NASDAQ as well. Yeah. I mean, if you have a look at the NASDAQ in general and you compare the S&P 500, like, you know, 500 stocks that are in there, you'll see that 7 stocks are driving all the headlines, and, you know, the biggest market caps, therefore they have the biggest market share, therefore when they move significantly and they drag the rest of the market. Because if you're comparing for example, if you take in comparison NASDAQ and you have a look at you know, the rest of the stocks that are in there, you'll find that, you know, majority of other stocks are actually nowhere near an all-time high at the moment. So they're still actually kind of lagging behind the overall sentiment that's actually extremely bullish right now. But what you're seeing with these 7 stocks, they've gone absolutely parabolic, and that's what's actually keeping up the markets at the moment.
Did you want to get into that?
Yeah, look, I mean, typically we have a bit of a pullback through this period, and then the fund managers will readjust their positions in July and August.
Yep.
So, at the moment it's not looking like that, but we know that things can change so quickly. So I'm still not ruling it out that we're going to have a turn, but I'm expecting there to be a bigger, a lot more volatility in the second half.
All right, let's get to that chart, that AI ETF, I think it is, just to show really how things have unfolded. Global Artificial Intelligence ETF, look at that, 2 months.
Yeah, I think it's got the potential, given the strength of the recent rise. If this month closes up strongly, we see a strong close, then we're likely to see a continuation up towards 19, and I think that's realistic for it in the short term. If we see it track sideways for a little while, I would say we're more likely to come back, test support, and then the secondary move will occur following that. So, yeah, just watch this space. It looks interesting, doesn't it?
All right, fantastic. Now stick around, because shortly we're going to get into the stocks from those sectors we just mentioned that are looking ready for a big opportunity right now. But let's get into our trending topic, Janine.
It's all about CSL, isn't it, at the moment? Yeah. I hate to say it for those people holding it, but CSL's stunning collapse sent a shudder through the Australian stock market this week. Is the stock cheap now, and should you buy? Before we answer these questions, CSL fell by around 20% to levels not seen since 2015. The company was one of Australia's market darlings. Investors saw this as set and forget. And the article from Stockhead says it all. It continues with, "This has turned into the financial equivalent of watching your reliable Toyota Camry suddenly lose a wheel on the freeway." I just love that.
I'd say more the engine, not the wheel.
Yes. CSL cut its financial year 2026 outlook and warns of another $5 billion, that's US dollars, in impairments ahead. Management previously suggested the second half would be stronger. Now, were we surprised? No. I think everybody around here is. Now, for those who follow us regularly, we had flagged the potential for a further fall. Is this the bottom, and is it time to buy the stock cheap? Let's take a look.
Yeah, I mean, look, I went out on, I think it was Hot Copper, doing
You went out on a limb?
I went out on a limb and I said, watch $100 like a hawk, and I think it's at that level now. So, yeah, let's see what happens. But anyway, What are your thoughts on?
Well, look, it's hit that level. It's gapped down, as we can see on that weekly chart. That was the announcement this week. And often, sometimes you get these flush outs at a bottom and then a turnaround, but, it may not be immediate. And that's the issue with CSL. We could very well be in for the low, but it could just go down slightly lower. So it's not the time to just try to jump in and buy something cheap. This is the biggest catch a falling knife that we've seen. People were saying, oh, surely it's found support around $200 and it's kept falling. I mean, if you thought that and you just jumped in at any time without waiting for proper rules, you'd be down 50%. Was it worth it? No. I don't. I think most people would answer honestly that it wasn't. Now, is there a possibility that it could go lower, and how much could it go? If we're looking at the the reality for this, it could dip lower. Another one after such a big volatile move like that move. But there could be some silly people who try to jump in and are greedy. I'd say that's more greed driven than anything than sensibility here, trying to pick the bottom and hope that they get it. Good luck to you. It's a mug's game if you want to try to do that sort of thing. Instead, you could just pick Dale's book, and we saw a lot of people do this, and simply learn how to apply proper lines to your chart so you can work out where to actually enter. The book says it all. How to get in and to observe trends and to really respect them and not try to second guess them.
Yeah, I think it's a big eye-opening moment for anyone looking to get into the share market. I think just buying and holding. I mean, this is a big top 20 stock on our market, and it's done that. So it really, speaks to that. And I'm looking at you nodding your head, saying, wanting to say something important.
Well, once upon a time in 2020, in March, it was actually the biggest market caps. It was the biggest stock on the ASX So that just speaks volumes. And I think we've actually touched on this stock like probably a couple of months ago when it broke out of the sideways move. And when I actually said a story about one of my clients who was actually buying a stock, he was considering it cheap. It was around $200 or so. In fact, actually, I caught up with him today and we touched on it. And he said that he's well over 60-70% down now on that particular stock. So, and I think we also, went through the importance of technical analysis, because a point that you raised, Janine, before, because, the CEO and the staff and the directors are talking positively about the growth, I think the chart reflects a much better picture and clear picture of what's actually going on and what the general sentiment is on the stock. So,
but
it doesn't matter what we say on the show in terms of the warnings that we give people and looking at the trends. It happens. People think that they read things about the fundamentals of a company and think that that's right.
Well, there's always that conversation or that argument. What do people say, well, I'm going to go with the fundamental. What do you trust in terms of what's the most important information you can get when buying or selling a share? Well, okay, you have a story. You look at the fundamental story. That's great for you. You want to project out 4 or 5 years. You like the CEO. You like what cereal he eats, or you like the whatever you think. At the end of the day, and it was a beautiful quote I read, I can't remember it exactly, but you might be looking at the greatest company in the world. If you buy it at the wrong time, it doesn't matter.
It's
Your
a
story
misery.
goes out the window. So when you talk about what is the most important bit of analysis when being an investor or a trader, it's what we're showing you on the chart. I mean, it's price.
It's also the stop loss.
Yeah.
Because even if he knew nothing at 200 and he put in a stop loss, where's the 200s? Just say he tried to buy it when people were pushing it up here and he set a stop loss underneath this low. Even if he bought it right at the top there, his loss would have been about, 14% at the time. Maybe he got caught in the downdraft and it was a little bit more than that because it looked like it moved quickly on that fall. But still, that's a lot less than risking 60%.
But you wouldn't be doing that, when you're knowing what you know, you wouldn't be. There's no confirmation.
There's no entry there. There's nothing right at that point there.
But even if you lost 15%, you could still now have cash on hand and wait for it to potentially drop another 20-30% and enter much cheaper levels and buy the market bottom, and as opposed to buying now at the top, and if you haven't sold it, you're actually waiting for that to come back, which might take years. And we've gone through stocks on this show a few weeks ago where Goodman Group and a few other ones that during the GFC they actually touched the all-time top, and then what happened was afterwards when they actually fell out of bad, it took them such a long time to actually retrace, and there were so many other opportunities in the market.
Yeah, or you learn how to trade with confirmation and get in at the right time. Correct. I mean, that's the other
simple as that.
Real option. But anyway, if you want the skills to analyse stocks just like you've seen tonight, visit our website, wealthwithin.com.au. But now let's get back to our topic and get into those stocks we spoke about. Janine.
All right. Next DC, this is a favourite, isn't it? AI data centre infrastructure play benefiting from GPU and cloud demand. This one looks really messy, I have to say. I like the stock. This could be a consolidation before the next move up, but it's just got so much resistance right now around where it is. I'd like to see it pull back. You see this line across here? I'd like to see it actually really test that level properly, which I don't think it's done that yet. So short-term traders, maybe that's and a tight stop loss. It's okay, but not for someone who's more medium-term.
All right, Zoran, thoughts on this one?
I actually don't mind it. I think it's looking pretty solid at the moment. If I have a look at it on weekly chart, I like the move up. I think it's actually indicating there is a conviction around the buyers actually controlling the stock as opposed to sellers. The gap got closed. Yes, it has created a low here, which was lower than the prior low, but I also feel that it might be a fair bit of a short-term bottom. The move up in terms of the price, I'd be looking at $15.09. If it does break that, then it could give us an entry signal to test the $18. But overall, solid. It hasn't gone parabolic, which is important to me. It's created higher highs and higher lows. It's got a bit of a style to it. If you've done the courses and you do a fair bit of back testing on it, I can probably see 2 or 3 good strategies that can actually work really well on it.
And it's even filled that gap back in early or mid-2025.
That's right as well, yeah.
So that's a nice little tick. But let's move on to the next one. What have we got?
All right, Megaport Limited, MP1 or MPI, cloud connectivity infrastructure benefiting from AI traffic growth. Now, this stock's trading at around $10 at the moment. It's looking interesting. It's come off this bottom here. This is a really strong support level for the stock. Again, this is one, like Zoran said, if you have a good set of rules, it's going to be a good short-term opportunity. But medium term, I've just put a question mark on it. I'm still unclear about that. I really want to see this thing bounce down like it's done in the past before it makes its move. Otherwise, it could just be a short flash in the pan like we saw here. So I would say if you're not already in it right now, just wait for that pullback, and then there could be some really good opportunities up to around the $13, $14 mark.
Yeah, awesome. Zoran?
If I had to pick and choose between this one and the prior one, I'd go with the prior one purely on basis that I can see very, very long erratic bars here on this stock, and the movements are actually a little bit like a yo-yo. So, when it's going up, it's going quite aggressively. When it goes down, vice versa, same. I agree with Janine as well. I can see a good bottom or support around $7. Yes. If you can provide an entry, I would agree with Janine as well. I can see the $12 to $13 mark, but I'm not so much convinced. I'd probably do this one for very, very short-term trading as opposed to actually buy and hold longer term, because it would probably give me a bit of a heart attack.
Yeah, doing buy and hold with tech is probably going to give you a heart attack in general, but let's go to the next stock, which may or may not, this one might not give you a heart attack. Macquarie Technology, it's a much more stable option.
Fabulous.
Yeah, this looks really good. AI data centre and cloud infrastructure provider. I'm starting to feel happier.
Good.
Benefiting from rising enterprise AI compute demand and sovereign Australian cloud growth. Once you've got all that, but let's just look at what we want to look at, which is the chart. First of all, I'm just going to expand that chart up. I mean, this is really nice, the fact that it's broken out of that resistance so far. And look, for some, that's good enough as an entry. For others, you might still be wanting to see a test of that level, but looking at the upside, there's 30% to the upside at the moment. If we go back and have a look at that weekly chart and that breakout, we can see how much time it's spent here going sideways, which is all the better to get that test of that $70 level and let it run up. But I'm liking it. I think there's some really good potential in this one. It's got that volatility, which makes it a nice trading stock. Hopefully it's broken out of this messiness and we get back to something more sustainable like this run here. Volume at the moment, last week volume was really quite good, but we just want to see a bit more of that higher volume, on the next push up.
All right, fantastic. Your thoughts on this one, Ben?
Weekly, I agree with Janine. I pretty much share the same view. Monthly, a little bit concerned because I'm seeing a pattern that I don't like, but I hope that's not a reversal pattern at the market top. Which you probably guys know what I'm referring to, but on weekly chart, it's looking pretty solid. Even if it came back to $70 or $73 and provided a good entry, I think if it can reverse, then there should be a fair bit of upside on weekly chart.
Awesome. All right, now this next one's an ETF, robots, AI for those ETF lovers.
Interesting. RBTZ.
Pretty obvious, right?
Yep. All right, so we're looking at that high being challenged. It's taken it out once and it's coming up to challenge it again. It looks like it's got the potential given the strong move up that we've just seen this month, but obviously it needs to close high. And just looking at that, it's probably going to run out of steam for a little while, which is nice actually to see. I'd like to see what it does when it retests this, possibly come down to $15, maybe 15, less than that, go sideways a little bit and then make the moves up. But it's got the potential to go straight through it as well. That's the other thing. Because of these runs, we've seen some of these really long runs here. I mean, look at this one here, went up for 25%. And, it looks more than what it actually is. That's only 22%. So it's with ETFs, isn't it? I mean, that's always the way, but the stocks are going to give you more. And I mean, this could go anything up to around that 18 if it keeps going, but I just really want to see it have a decent pullback first.
Yeah, your thoughts are? I mean, this is AI and robotics, so it is a big AI portion of it, but it
needs to take out the major all-time high. I think if it does, then Hopefully we can do some projections for that to continue, but it does need to break that through because that's a major resistance point, and obviously on a couple of occasions, back in 2021, I believe this is. So I would like this level to be taken out, which is November, and then I would like most recent one to be taken out as well. If it does, then it's got a beautiful uptrend line that can hug the overall trend, and hopefully this can continue heading higher.
Are you in agreement with Janine in terms of right now it looks a little bit stretched for someone thinking, oh, I want to buy today?
I would expect probably for price to come to some sort of halt or resistance at these levels. And I do agree because it's gone up 22% and there's probably 6 or 7 weekly bars that it's consistently gone up. So it's only natural to think that it will provide better resistance. But as long as it doesn't hold for too long and it can have aggressive push through it, and if it closes on weekly or monthly basis, then I think it's a good trigger point.
Nice. All right. Next one, we're going into silver.
All right, Sun Silver Limited, SS1 Maverick Springs Silver Gold Projects in Nevada. This looks really interesting. I mean, the fact that it's come back to that line, I'm not even going to bother to look at the monthly chart at this point because of the amount of data that we've got here, but just given the angle of that trend that we showed on the monthly chart and how it's actually come back recently, just to respect that is so nice. And we just need to see this consolidation finish out. Not try to get in too early just in case it dips below this line, but just waiting and being patient, wait for a strong move above. But that's around $1.60 or so, but there's decent upside above that point. So, that's huge upside potential.
Huge upside,
and even to there's 40%, which I'd say has got a reasonable probability of getting to that. I like it.
Good thing here would be to actually overlay a chart of silver versus US dollar or Aussie dollar, because what I find is actually a lot of comparison, a lot of similarities to the chart that we actually provided before, especially probably on the smaller cap stocks. But yeah, I agree, Janine. I think there's a bit of a gap there as well. If you can break through and push through that 140 or so, this level here. Then hopefully he can, 153, then I think it could be a nice little entry for a long position.
All right, fantastic. The last one, what do we got?
All right, drum roll on that last one. Now, this is interesting. This is actually Andean Silver Limited, ASL. I haven't seen this one before. This looks really interesting. The fact that it's come back and is respecting that angle, it sort of makes you feel like it wants to come over a little bit further, so it may consolidate sideways for a little bit longer. But it's interesting that it's actually got really high-grade deposits of silver, and it's going sideways like silver is at the moment as well. So, notice that, remember on the silver chart, we saw that little pullback into the low. This one's actually coming down. We need to see that high taken out. So that's that high of $2.32. Once that high is taken out, I think it's going to move up and go through that all-time high. But it's a question here right now because there's 18% upside, and the risk on your downside,
it's probably much greater.
There's the low there at 20. And so I think that when you do your analysis, you have to be able to show that it's going to get up to around that 340, 350 level to justify the trade. If you can do that, that's fine, and then decide where you're going to set your stop loss. It may be that you have to actually go narrower, but it just looks like that's such a natural point, though, to put it, you see. There's a gap there on the daily. Maybe it'll come back and fill that, go sideways for a little while. So I don't think there's any rush, is the whole point of it.
Yeah, and I mean, what's interesting from those two silver stocks, you're right, the silver price is actually taken out that recent high. It's pointing up. Those two stocks are lagging a little bit. How important is it when someone is trading? Because there's always, we get questions all the time. The other day I was speaking to someone saying, how much importance do you place on overlaying something like the silver chart, as you said? But when you're trading a stock, remember you're trading a stock, and silver at $70 or $80 affects one company different than it does another one because they all have their different production costs. So are you...
Contracts.
All that stuff. So are you purely looking at the price of the underlying commodity? I'll ask both of you, to give you the trigger? Like, are you saying, okay, they're lagging now, they're a good opportunity, or is it always going to be company first?
Look, I think it's got to be the stock first. So analyse, for me anyway, just analyse the stock chart first. Let it tell you what the potential is, what potential upside is, what the downside is. And this came up in a conversation with someone recently who'd done our short course, which ends at, working out the strategy.
Yeah.
The next part, modules 4 and 5, are where you work out how it's going to unfold and how high it might rise and how far it might fall. And I think that that's got to be the focus first, working that out on the stock, and then just see whether what's happening with the commodity. So if it looks like it's time to buy this one, it's just important to cross-check what the underlying's doing and just, is it supporting it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Pretty much same. I do put a little bit of emphasis on the underlying market or particular sector because I think it's important that there is a bit of a trend unfolding and there is a bit of a momentum going. But stock, you actually you do in isolation and you apply different rules on it. Yeah.
All right. Now, before we move on, let's quickly get your favourites, Janine.
Yeah. Look, in this instance, I think I have to go for this little silver stock.
Nice.
So it's Sun Silver at this point.
Cool. Zoran?
Yeah, I'll probably go with NXT.
Cool.
DC.
Nice. One tech, one silver.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, moving on shortly, we're going to get into our hot stock tip from Zoran, which is an absolute interesting stock. But first, let's answer your questions. Alex writes, I'm looking at NST as it has come to a low price. Really appreciate if you could analyse the stock. All right. NST, Zoran.
NST, looking pretty solid. It has monthly chart doesn't probably paint the best picture because it's actually come off quite a bit from its top, but overall, so it's actually gone as far as 46%, which is actually quite significant, and we can see a down bar has come back somewhat, but it's actually pointing again down, so that's a bit of a concern, to be honest. But if I apply like just a basic trend line, it's actually still got probably a little bit more downside towards the $17. So if it breaks these levels, then I'd be starting to be fairly concerned, to be honest, because it's also gonna take out the major high in October 2020. So that's my absolute bottom line here, which is around $16.50 or $70. On weekly chart, it's probably looking fairly bearish, to be honest. It doesn't look too good, but in saying that, if it can hold around these levels and it can actually kind of form a bottom, and it can start heading higher, then we might be out of the woods. But that point, for me, is not going to confirm it until it takes out the high of $24.80, which was actually on the 17th of April 2026. So I'm not saying it's a no at the moment. I'm just saying you got to be patient with it. It's got to provide you with the right signals or buy opportunities, because it is both on monthly and weekly chart pointing towards further downside, and you just have to be patient and make sure it can actually consolidate before you actually do the next move.
Awesome. All right, there you have it. Not just yet, but Adam's email is next. Now, been looking at Resolution Mining for a while and was wondering what your thoughts are on this company and the stock's movements as of late. All right, Janine, I think this is another gold player.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. So really good pick, actually. So you're just looking at the long-term position of this stock, and you can see that the bottom appears to be down here in 2015, and then it's tried to test that again here. I just like the fact that that could be the bottom there. We've seen a move up. If it goes back through this high that's here, it could take off to much higher levels. The thing to be mindful of, though, is how long it's actually traded below these levels and has struggled to get through any of that. So I'd say somewhere around $2 is the real point for this stock, and once it gets through that, then I think there could be some really exciting opportunities. But short-term traders, depending on the strategy that you've got, there still could be an opportunity in there before that. It just depends on how much risk that you're willing to take, because you've got to look at the way that this stock unfolds when there's a sell-off. It's fallen 60% in just a couple of months, and you see the same position here, 50%. So, if you come back to the weekly chart and you really get a good understanding for how this stock moves and whether you could actually sell it, it's like, there's if you know technical analysis, you know how to apply proper rules, you could sell that on a weekly chart and get out with a profit. That's the important thing to be able to observe on any stock that you're trading. It's just a question of whether now is the right timing. Is it going to come back a little bit further? I'd like to see it drop back below this low again. But at the moment, we've got this nice little pattern that's unfolded, and if it consolidates sideways, the other side to that is that it could just take off. This could be a completely different scenario that the stock hasn't seen in a long time.
Yeah, definitely watch those levels where it's at right now. All right, well, let's move on. Aravinda is next and writes, I've been reviewing a few stocks recently and wanted to get your thoughts on 3 in particular, AIM, AR and SYL. I'm assessing whether they are shaping up for a bullish entry at the moment and would really value your perspective on their current technicals and any fundamental considerations you think are relevant. All right, we're going to pick one stock, Aravinda. Normally we do one. So I think, what have we got out of those 3?
AIM.
All right.
MediaTek, yeah.
AI Media, what do you reckon?
So is this...
for a buy? Yeah, that's one of the stocks.
No, what I'm saying is this a student or
No,
student?
just someone.
Just someone, okay.
Yeah, I hope.
Okay, I hope it's a student because I think I can see what they meant by picking and choosing this stock, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but like, look, it's probably, I mean, yeah, like we can see a significant downside on this. So like, I need to have a look into a little bit more, but I can also see a level here that the stock is holding around the 22 cents. And if we can actually go above that, I'm not saying it's a buy, but it could, there might be a time in the future where it could provide an opportunity, right? But on monthly chart, it's looking terrible. On weekly chart, it's looking fairly terrible as well. We can actually see the volumes have actually dropped off as over the past few weeks. So, I mean, it's a tough one. This one really is. It's gone like, it's got chopped to pieces, and I don't see an entry level opportunity right now. What I do see though is a lot of liquidity in this stock, especially if you actually focus on weekly bars, and that's another one of my concerns as well, because the length of the bars, the open and closes, do not provide me too much confidence at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I know you wanted to say something for Aravinda, Janine.
Yeah, so I guess I can see your thought process, right? And I understand where you're coming from, because what you're trying to do is get the stock at the best possible entry. And sometimes when a stock takes out and makes a new low, that can actually be an opportunity, but it can also be the highest risk time to be trying to buy it, because it indicates that it's continuing to go lower and could do so for inevitable time. And I mean, it's a 22 cent stock. The volatility is high, it's high risk, and you've got to have the right set of rules, the right stop loss. It looks like in the history of this thing that you could just trail a stop up underneath these lows and you could do okay with it. But it's whether you've actually got the conviction to sell it at the time if it does go the other way. And that's where often people who don't have, a thorough education behind them, that's where they fall over.
Yeah, I think you'd really benefit, Aravinda, from doing the diploma. I say that honestly, because there is, when we talk about looking at stocks in the phases and where they're at and understanding, I mean, most stocks that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most stocks do fall after IPO. They have an initial spike up, they fall, then they base out, and then starts the expansion for most companies that are solid. This went through that and then got absolutely slaughtered.
Oh, so this one's gone through an IPO, has it?
Yeah, well, recently, I mean, it's, come on the market, did everything that you normally see if we bring up that chart.
Yeah, on the monthly.
Initial euphoria, base out at the bottom, starts its run for expansion, and then that happens.
And it fails.
And that's for me a bit concerning, because why is that happening? If we're ready for the growth phase, I don't know, yeah.
And that's a really good point, because, as a student looking at and understanding what you learn in that material, you really start to appreciate what Phil's saying and what this actually means in terms of where it is in the big picture. Yeah.
It's good if you're shorting it.
Oh, it's awesome. And that's another thing. It's another thing you could learn going both ways, which most of us do here, and I mean stocks. But Janine, you're more of a long trader.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Lucky I saved myself on that one. But anyway, let's move on. Alex's email is next. With the upcoming capital gains tax changes, we will see some good rises in the banking sector share prices. That's a question. I'm thinking of buying Bank of Queensland. What is your opinion on this? All right. This is interesting. It's coming out, tomorrow or the day after? Tonight.
I believe it's tonight. The budget's coming up.
Yeah. And I've seen this comment a few times. People are thinking the banking sector is going to go for a bit of a run with the new capital gains tax situation. Do you want to make some comments on that, or just dive into Bank of Queensland? Because the talk is, okay, property is going to see, obviously, people selling their properties saying there's no point, holding, or it's going to affect that. Where's the next area? Stocks, but good yield banks.
If that's the train of thought, then I'm going to politely disagree with that, because the new rules that are coming into effect on property are actually coming into effect tonight. And also people that bought the properties and do negative gearing and have 50% CGT, they're going to continue to have that. It's the actual new investors that are coming into the market that are actually going to get affected on it. So I actually I'm not buying into that story. If anything, I actually see that people that are trying to get into the market, it's only going to be more challenging for them to get in once these new rules come into the effect. And I also think it's going to affect a lot of investors and traders moving forward who are actually investing in the share trading and different financial markets as well. So whether it's benefiting or not, I'm not sure how they're going to try to sell it tonight. I'm not going to get into the politics, because we all know what they promised when they were coming into power. They said no changes to the CGT and, like a whole heap of promises, but obviously that's not the case anymore. But what I can say is that I actually spoke to a few clients today that were buying stocks and shares because they want to avoid the indexation coming into the effect, and they're actually buying today to hold for a long term. But my question to them was, well, if you're buying for a long term today, what happens if there is a market crash or something happens? Are you still going to stick to those stocks? Or are you actually going to sell them? So what's going to cost you more? That's exactly my question. So I think there's a lot to unpack and a lot to discuss here. But if I have a focus on Bank of Queensland, I think it's got a good opportunity. I think on weekly chart, it doesn't look the best at the moment. But if you can provide quite a bit of support around these levels, which is around $6, then hopefully it can actually form a bottom. On monthly chart, it's actually looking not too bad, as long as, once again, you can hold around these levels. We can actually see a bit of volume creeping up as well as the stock is getting sold, which is a bit of a concern, but I'm also seeing a gap here. The stock has actually done kind of a major high back in June 2025, and then it's created a lower major high in April 2026. I do understand the whole sector has been actually underperforming a little bit, and there's actually a lot of banks that have been sold off recently. But banks are darlings of this market, and ASX, everyone wants them in their portfolio. I'm not concerned. I think they should bounce back, and there should be great opportunities out there. I mean, have a look at Macquarie today as well, and with their recent results as well. Yeah. They're probably a dark horse when it comes to some of those major competitors as well. So I see a lot of bright future for it.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk specifically about Bank of Queensland, or you just want to talk banks in general? You're looking at.
I think I went on a little bit of tangent.
You can talk about whatever you like, Janine, because you want to say something.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to look at the stock that we're talking about, Bank of Queensland. This stock has disappointed for so long. It doesn't mean it hasn't got the potential to turn around and recover and do something great. It could. But it's just that right now, when you see this sort of a sell-off, and it's tested this level a number of times, and this is not a bullish test. This is like boots and all, let's get out sort of looking sell-off. Although there's a little gap there, it's going to be a real test to see whether this level can hold. But, this doesn't look promising. A long-term just disaster. This reminds me of of NAB when it was the worst stock in the market. And I mean, it's just have a look at it. But they don't always stay that way, and that's really the point. Even though, you know, it may be the worst looking stock at the moment, it could end up being the better looking stock. But I just keep reflecting on the fact that if we're due for a long-term cycle low, how is this going to get to any significant heights? You know, it has to have some major story, and I just don't see it at this point in time. It has to get all the way back through $7.60 to start looking interesting to me.
Yeah, all right.
So, you know, that it's not impossible. Could happen, but
yeah, not yet. That's, I think, the point of this one. But let's move on now. Time for our hot stock tip this week. Zoran, interesting one this week, mate.
Yeah, the hot stock tip this week is Life 360, which they delivered record quarterly results with revenue surging 38% to 143 million, while advertising revenue exploded 329% as its new and platform gained serious traction. The company also upgraded full year guidance and now has nearly 98 million monthly active users globally, reinforcing strong long-term growth momentum for the business. But let's get to the chart itself. So positive results overall on the stock, but it's not reflecting in the chart. Something that we've discussed in the past or previously as well. It's looking fairly bearish. I'm not going to disagree with that, and I know a lot of people will be asking me probably why I chose this stock. But if I have a look at it on monthly chart, it's gone down 67%, which is actually quite aggressive. And this is something that we discussed previously with you know, some of those indexes and Nasdaq and AI stocks. It's actually gone parabolic, and you know, what goes up must come down. So that's a perfect example of that. What I will apply here is actually and trend line that could be coming into effect and could provide quite a bit of halt or support. And the level that I'd be looking at probably is around $15. So I do still see a little bit more downside on this stock. However, I'm hoping that it can actually find the bottom and turn around based on the recent announcement. On weekly chart, I am actually starting to see a bit of a, you know, consolidation or sideways move here. And by any means, it's not an entry signal at the moment, and I'm not going to say it is. But what I will say is that if we do continue to turn around and we take out the most recent high of $22.05, then it would potentially provide a short-term trade, because if you're looking for the downside risk and something that Janine mentioned previously of 10 to 15%, then it could be quite you know, saturated one, but it could provide you with an opportunity for much more upside, because the next level of resistance that I see is probably somewhere around $29. Now, if I compare the downside to the upside, you know, we could potentially look at 32 or 33% upside for a 15% downside. Now, I would like the volume to support that move. And I would like this probably, you know, stock to actually move a little bit more sideways, if that makes sense, just to consolidate and form a solid bottom. But if it takes out the low of $16.90, and then it takes the next major low of around $14.93 or below $15, then I would like to think that this stock has got a lot more downside to go.